Welcome to the Friday edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. With you, as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Is this the end of the Chiefs Dynasty? We're going to dive into it, give you the definitive answer one way or the other. The good news is when we get done here in, 55 minutes, you'll know the answer. Think about that. We're going to give it to you right now. Was this the best 3-year run in the history of the NFL? How does this loss affect the Mahomes legacy? What does the win do for the legacy of Jalen Hurts, both now and his place in the NFL amongst the best quarterbacks today? Does it tarnish Andy Reid's legacy? Did we just watch Travis Kelce's last game? Do the Chiefs need to make some changes to the coaching staff? We're talking about it right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is the sports columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world: home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it. Get with Dave and he'll have you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call, visit them online, or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave. He'll give you peace of mind today for the things in your life most important to you. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on a Friday. Remember, if you're catching us via the podcast, you can be a part of the conversation in the chat room, as many are already there. Make your comments, get your thoughts known here amongst the Red, Gold, and Bold community by joining us. We're live Tuesday nights at 9:30, Fridays at 10 a.m., 9:30 p.m. on Tuesdays, Friday at 10 a.m., and the aftermath starts to settle in. Jeff, let's begin here. Is this the end of the Chiefs dynasty? Have we seen it? And, tear it up, throw it away. They did all they could. It was fun while it lasted, but it is no more.
Look, they're going to contend as long as Patrick Mahomes is here and Andy Reid's here. So I wouldn't go that far. I don't think this iteration of this dynasty is going to last much longer. In much the same way as the Patriots had two different dynasties, right? They had the one that was the early Tom Brady years and the one that was the later Tom Brady years. And then in between, it was a lot harder to win because Peyton Manning figured it out and Eli Manning came along and Ben Roethlisberger got better and Drew Brees showed up. And so I do see that coming. You're going to lose some key components of this dynasty in Travis Kelce, whether he comes back next year or not. Chris Jones is getting older. And so you have to figure he may have one good year left, maybe two at the best. And you're losing guys like probably Trey Smith and Nick Bolton. And so when you start losing those components, it makes it much harder to keep winning championships. And you just saw a team, by the way, that was demonstrably better than the Chiefs. And so, yeah, I think that, look, they're always going to be in it. But to say they're going to keep winning championships, I don't see that happening right now. It's going to be harder for them to keep winning championships.
All right, Sam, where do you sit?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get any easier. I guess the headline for me is I don't think that Patrick Mahomes has won his last Super Bowl, and therefore I don't think that this dynasty is over, because to me the dynasty is the commonality of the team, and the commonality of this team is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and I think they'll win another Super Bowl, but I don't think it's going to get easier, and I think in the short term they probably are going to have to take a step back, and I don't know if that's going to end up being record-wise, although I don't think they're going to go 15-1 as starters a year from now, but they are going to lose some core pieces. I mean, Brett Veach spoke to a local contingent of us at the Super Bowl, and he basically said that, they'd love to get one, maybe two of these guys back. Like, his expectations are realistic that Trey Smith is going to be very difficult to retain, that they're going to lose some players. And, it's the guys that Jeff mentioned. It's Justin Reid as well, who I've said on this podcast a couple times, but I think had the most underrated season for the Chiefs this year. So they're going to have to do it differently. And it's going to be with a different group, because even if Travis Kelce does come back, and I really have my doubts that's going to happen, he's not the same player that he was for the first stage of this dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious answer is no, because Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are still in place, right? I think the quarterback being the most important part of the equation. If you look at most dynasties, the only one that we'd say extends beyond a quarterback would be the 49ers, right? They handed it off to Steve Young and got one more and continued to be in conference championship games. But where else would you look that it wasn't just one quarterback? I had somebody say, the Patriots, is it two dynasties or one? And somebody said, look, as long as you've got the same coach and same quarterback, it's the same dynasty. Okay. But I don't know that it ends if you change it. I think Andy Reid would be the piece that's most likely to change, right? And he's coming back. We're going to get into roster construction in later episodes. I think the question is, do you see this as one bet? Like, if you're to call your shot, I think the heavy favorite is no, because Patrick Mahomes is coming back and he's 29 years old, right? If it was a betting odds thing, do they win another one? Probably, right? If you say, well, they win one in the next 5 or 6 years, probably they'll win at least one. Do they win 2 or 3? I don't know. That's where the real speculation gets into. But I do wonder, if we were to look at it and say, why is it over? Jeff hit on it. Travis Kelce, they're gonna have to hit, like, Brett Veach is gonna have to have a day. And the question is, can they maintain the way the Patriots did? Because even if you want to separate out the Patriots into two dynasties, they went to Super Bowls in 7 and 11. They went freaking undefeated in 7. That was 3 years after they won their third championship. So there was no like cold winter of, well, they fattened up picking in the top 10 3 years in a row, and that really rearmed them to take another run at it. They maintained, and I think that is the real question, because I do think we're finally going to see some attrition to the roster, and we're going to feel the full brunt. Like, what do they do with the Patrick Mahomes contract, which is headed way up? I think that'll be the question. Like, can you, because I think they lost this game. Look, the difference in the cap, you know how much money just cap wise, and we know the Eagles backload everything with void years, and so they really work the system, and they play for now knowing they're going to have to make a payment later for all this. But you know what the cap hit was for AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Saquon Barkley?
No.
It was $23.7 million. Do you know what the difference was in the cap hit for Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes? $23.5 million. I mean, that like, I say that everyone knows, but I mean, just think of that. That, like, we hear it, oh yeah, Mahomes is more expensive. He's more expensive. But you don't ever really quantify it into what does that mean. The 3 most important skill position players of the Philadelphia Eagles, who are all on second contracts. None of that is, a guy that's in the first year. That's the difference in what the Mahomes contract is. So it is a little bit, it's only the second dynasty, Jeff, trying to make it go with a quarterback that can really crush your cap the way that Patrick Mahomes can. Tom Brady was the only other one. They managed to massage it. It's going to be on not just getting talent, but massaging that contract along the way as well.
Yeah, and I think they're one and the same. I mean, I think it's great to have the quarterback, but you just saw the quarterback isn't enough when you're facing great teams. And that's the thing that I look at when I look at, can they win another Super Bowl with this coach and quarterback? Sure, but how long will that take to happen is the more accurate question, more appropriate question. Because I don't know if it's going to happen as quickly when you look at what the AFC West is becoming. The Chargers and the Broncos got a lot better. When you look at, again, the Eagles weren't the only good team in the NFC. The Lions are a pretty good team. The Washington Commanders showed they could be a pretty good team. The Los Angeles Rams, whatever they do at quarterback, they've shown they can bounce back. And so the competition is going to be greater. And that's when people talk about the Patriots' first dynasty, they forget how watered down the league was back then. You did not have a lot of great quarterbacks. You did not have a lot of great teams in that first 2000 to 2005 space. Look at who they were playing against. And so that's what the Chiefs are going to run into moving forward. If you think Josh Allen is not going to get better in the Bills, you're kidding yourself. You think the Ravens aren't going to get better, you're kidding yourself. You think the Bengals aren't going to bounce back, you're kidding yourself. So you're going to have more competition, and that's going to make it harder for them.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Sam, the best 3-year run, are we looking at it right here? Do they at least get that title of the best 3-year run in the Super Bowl era?
I think it's the most accomplished 3-year run that we've ever seen. You know, I did the math on this for a column I wrote this week, and they were the defending Super Bowl champions for 728 days, and nobody has ever been the defending champions longer. The 49ers matched that number, but nobody in NFL history could call themselves the Super Bowl champions for longer than the Chiefs could. It's the most wins over a 3-year span, 49 wins in 3 years, including the playoffs. By the way, that in 3 years is more than Joe Burrow has in his last 5 years with the Bengals, just to put that in perspective. They have more playoff wins in these 3 years than Eli Manning, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, had in his career. Like, it's really tough to do what the Chiefs did. They didn't wow us, though, I think is what's, you know, the ironic part of this. The other side of this is a lot of times, you know, they were squeaking by. So I don't think it's the best team that we've ever seen. You know, I went back and looked at one of you guys referenced, I think, Soren, that 07 Patriots team, for example. They only had 4 one-possession games the whole regular season in that 16. I mean, they were blowing teams out. That hasn't been this Chiefs team for the past 3 years. Last year they went 11-6, but I still think it's the most accomplished 3-year run we've ever seen in the NFL.
Jeff, where do you put it?
I put it second behind those one of those Patriots dynasties. I think the first one they won 19 straight games, and so I didn't look at it in the way Sam's looking at it in terms of how many wins you have, because that gets skewed because you're playing more regular season games and you're playing more playoff games. But I do think 19 straight wins is pretty impressive, regardless of who you're playing against in this league. I look at that second run they had in 2014. They beat a Seattle team that was going for defending a championship and could have won. They came back and beat a Falcons team that was had the MVP of the league that year, and then they beat a Rams team that beat the Chiefs. And with a 54-51 game, that was a pretty loaded team as well. And their only loss in that space was to an Eagles team that they lost by 8 points. And so, yeah, I think that 3-year window there, people look at it like, well, they won 2 championships in 3 years like this team did. They just didn't repeat. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with that earlier group, because I think 19 wins is a record that's probably not going to get broken anytime soon.
I think over 3 wins, it's a no-brainer. I think it's them. Over 3 seasons, it's a no-brainer. They were the only one to go to the Super Bowl 3 times. I think that's pretty easy.
The Patriots won, lost one.
Yeah.
Good point. That's your better argument, Jeff.
The 3. That is true. You're right. They're the only one, though, to have a shot at having the 3-peat, which I think matters for something. I mean, I think it does count. I think that to have the motivation to get all the way there, I think the getting clocked does a lot of lifting right now. Like, I think the immediacy of just having been battered, but they were 15-1. They were a 4th down stop away from being undefeated themselves coming into this, that this game would have ended in an undefeated season. Now, they would have had to have beaten the Broncos the final game, but presumably if they were undefeated, they would have tried. I don't know, maybe. But, you know, and there are other teams that have been in that kind of situation. I think it is the best 3-year run. Yeah. It's not by much.
Are we discounting the Dolphins? If we want to go way back in the 70s,
I think that's actually the one to put in there.
No, we're not discounting that. That's
okay. I'm just saying
No, we're not, and I think that's the 3rd one to put in there. And I'm glad you brought it up. That's where I was going.
Because they went to 3 straight Super Bowls.
They went to 3. They went loss, win, win.
Yeah.
In 3 straight Super Bowls. And so they're the other team to do it. So no, I think those are your 3 teams that you're talking about. I think you can make a case for the Steelers as well. I mean, they had a season where they were maybe the best defensive team ever. In one of their years that they didn't win it, they were just completely injured on offense, but they were winning games without scoring points. I mean, at an unbelievable level. I'm sure Pittsburgh people would like to nominate them to be in this equation, and they would be a worthy conversation to have. But I just think getting to and going for the 3rd consecutive win carries a lot of weight. And, you know, were they the most dominant one of the bunch?
No.
Probably the Dolphins were the most dominant bunch of the bunch.
Only undefeated team in there, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think it's also harder now than ever before to accomplish this kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think for me, this is it. And I think as the memory fades of them getting their clock cleaned, I think it will shine brighter than it does at this point.
And one of the other things that I think is interesting that I think maybe separates this group from another, and I don't know that this is a good thing or not necessarily, but when the Chiefs started this 3-year run, they were the number one offense in the NFL in 2022. I mean, in yards and scoring. They end this 3-year run. The second Super Bowl comes as much as the defense, as the offense. In the third, they're a more balanced team with both. And, we debated all year whether or not this was an elite defense or not. They made the Super Bowl with an offense that we criticized a lot. My point in that is what you said, Soren, about the fact that it's more difficult. The way the structure of the NFL is now is designed to prevent this thing from happening. It kind of did. It forced them to change.
Yeah.
They just still won as they were changing.
Yeah. No, I agree. We'll take a break. Let you know we're brought to you by our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Jeff, let's talk about what this does for the legacy of Patrick Mahomes, getting beaten like this. He's in his third championship. He's now 3-2 as a quarterback in the Super Bowl, but the losses have been definitive. What does it do for Patrick Mahomes' legacy?
I don't think it changes it at all. And I said this going into the game, if they lost this game, there was so much talk about them, what happens if they win it. And I kept telling people if they lose it, it's not going to change the fact that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, that he's one of the best quarterbacks ever. Same holds true for Andy Reid. We'll get into that later on. People want to make too much of one game. I remember Peyton Manning getting destroyed, against the Seattle Seahawks, and I don't remember that kind of conversation about him. He came back and won a championship towards the end of his career. He was fine. John Elway, people lauded him for his last 2 championships and forgot about all the ways he got blown out the first 3 times he was there. And so, no, I don't think it really matters. I think it matters more in the conversation about catching Tom Brady and all this stuff, which, again, I think it's going to be really hard for him to do. But as far as what he's done at this stage of his career and the way his career has played out, and I think he's just fine.
How about this one? Tyler says, I think getting blown out will actually help improve Mahomes' case. If you get to the Super Bowl, you have to blow his team out in order to beat him. If it's anywhere close, he's going to win. I do think that is, Blair Kirchhoff, your colleague at the Kansas City Star, Sam, was on with us yesterday, and he said he was on the Eagles pregame talking about the Chiefs. They said, well, what do you think? He said, well, I think if it's close, Patrick Mahomes will win it. But if it's a blowout, which I think is more likely for the Eagles will win it, right? And I think that is kind of the perception, and I think it has been the reality, is that if the game is close, Patrick Mahomes will win it. I think that is a great badge of honor. I think there's some truth in what Tyler said there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a positive.
Yeah.
Right? It's a positive.
Hey, he got killed. Look how good he is.
But I think it does add to the lore. He's right in the sense that if it's close, Mahomes wins. And that is a big one. If he can tack on another one and maybe he gets another one where he wins by double digits, that'll change the narrative a little bit. But I do think that there is an element of, I think it also speaks to how good was this team? Like, I almost feel like if they would go 9-8 next year, it does. And Patrick, and let's say the defense, they lose, Nick Bolton, they lose Charles Omenihu, they lose Justin Reid, they lose all these, different people. And then you say, okay, how good was this team last year that Patrick Mahomes was propping up, right? Like, offensively, they're good. He does a good job, but they still go 9-8. I think you would look back and be like, he carried that team into the Super Bowl. That third team, the offense not ranking well, like they had no business being there. I do think they're, what comes after this, to Jeff's point, talking about the different championship, part of the Patriots lure is we know what came later. We know they continued to be great and do all those things. And so I think there will be a little bit of what we think now will be, there'll be postscripts that are written with what he does after this, but there is an element, I think potentially, Sam, that he carried this team. Like, we look back and go, this team really wasn't that good. The offense definitely wasn't that good. And that guy put it on his shoulders and just willed them into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not different than any other year of the Patrick Mahomes tenure, is it? I mean, he's carried this team since
I think
2018.
Not in 19, not early on, not with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in their prime, and 1-1 at left tackle and Mitchell Schwartz at right tackle. No, I would disagree. Sammy Watkins at 18 million.
And Alex Smith had those guys in their prime too. And
listen, I didn't know we were having to compare Mahomes to Smith. I would have prepared other notes if I was still having to say Mahomes.
Well, my point is, I think Mahomes. I don't think Mahomes carried the Chiefs any more in this year than he has in any past year. But I think this game has to affect his legacy some. I mean, you can't look. I've seen a lot of sentiment saying that he's accomplished enough. He has, but you can't play in. I think you could make an argument this was the biggest game of Patrick Mahomes' life. It was the first ever three-peat in the NFL Super Bowl era history on the line, and they got their doors blown off. And he was at least partly responsible for the fact that they got their butts kicked in this game. But I've also seen the other sentiment saying, I guess if you're going to argue that he's got more football left, then you're arguing that his legacy is not a finished product. If his legacy is not a finished product, every game has to matter. And this performance in this game has to matter. I'm not saying that he's not this first ballot Hall of Famer, that he's not one of the best of all time. He still is all those things. But we've been talking about whether or not he's going to catch Tom Brady, whether or not he's going to be viewed as the best of all time. This game has to matter in that conversation. But what I don't like about it, it's still better to get to the Super Bowl than not. Like I've seen the LeBron James, Michael Jordan conversation always shifted around that too. Well, LeBron was 3-6 in finals, right? He got to the finals 9 times. That should matter. Like, it should not have been better for Patrick Mahomes if Josh Allen had led Buffalo to a game-winning drive and he'd lost in the AFC Championship game, just because that would mean he doesn't get beat in a Super Bowl. It matters to get to the Super Bowl. It matters to win your conference. It's tough, especially in the AFC this year. It was tough to get to the Super Bowl, so that part still matters. But getting your butts kicked in the Super Bowl matters too.
Can he catch Tom Brady, Jeff?
I don't think he's going to catch Tom Brady.
No, you don't think he is, but can he?
No. If you look at the odds of him winning 7 championships, they would have gone up immensely if he had won. I think they go down immensely after this loss because, and really the numbers, statistically, you're talking about how long is he going to play and at what level does he have to play. Now, he's gone 2 seasons now where he hasn't been, that prolific, where it's talking about yards and touchdowns. And so he's going to have to, one, stay healthy for the next 10 years. And then he's going to have to be putting up like 4,800, 5,000 yard seasons multiple times, 45 touchdown seasons just to be in the ballpark. And so people talk about where Brady was at this stage of his career. Well, at this stage of his career, he was just taking off. And so what he did from age 35 to age 45 was more significant and substantial than any other quarterback in NFL history. Like, where is Patrick Mahomes going to be? Now, he plays, we talk about Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, he throws his body around a lot and he takes some shots. And so, and he's not the most, he works out a lot, but you look at his body, he's not a physical specimen. And so where is he going to be at 37, 38. We're looking at Aaron Rodgers right now, and where he's at, and Russell Wilson, and Ben Roethlisberger. I think it's going to be hard for him. He'll make a run, but breaking those records, winning those championships, unless they get more Hall of Fame players in here, I don't think he's catching Tom Brady.
I think he's got to, and I think he's done a pretty good job of not challenging people until it gets to be the playoffs, putting his shoulder down and running into, he did it against the 49ers. I think it was this year. He's got to stop that, but I think he is built more like a linebacker. I think he's actually built to handle, the wear and tear a little more than say Lamar Jackson is, not more than Josh Allen. Josh Allen's built like a D end, but I think both of them can take on the hits. I think it's interesting because if the question is, can he be what Tom Brady is right now, which is hands down, no doubt about it, there is no discussion, the greatest quarterback of all times. Can he get there? Like, can he? Yes. If he won 7 in a row, he would get there. Realistically speaking, can he get there? No, I don't think he can get to the point where there is just absolutely no discussion. He is the best. Because to your point, Jeff, I think to do that, you have to do what Tom Brady did it. And that is lead all the statistical categories, win the most championships. And that is incredibly difficult. Can he get to the point to where it's like, I think the LeBron Jordan discussion right now, whichever side you're on, there is a very healthy conversation for the other side. There are reasons to pick the other side. And I don't think Mahomes has to get to 8 championships to be number 1. Right. I think at 5, it's really on the table. Had he won 3 in a row, I do agree with you wholeheartedly, Jeff. This was a big loss. Like the overall end of the day legacy, this was a big loss. Like losing to Brady in the AFC Championship game was a bitch for his legacy. And then losing to him in the Super Bowl, because then he's 0-2 against Brady. Those are 2 things he can't get back. And in all likelihood, he will never get a shot at a three-peat, something Tom Brady never did. That was going to be a giant talking point to make a case if everything ends up being close. Right. And he's lost that opportunity. I'm with Sam I don't know that his legacy lost that much right now as he's going, but at the end of the day, this was a really big feather that could have been in his cap it's going to be tough to find the opportunity to do something like that again. What else is he going to be in position to do that Tom Brady never did? Right.
This was his opportunity to catch him for that reason, is because he could have something on his resume that not only Tom Brady didn't have, but literally no other quarterback had. And when you look at the Tom Brady discussion, it's always, well, he has what no other quarterback has, 7 championships. Like that's where the conversation starts and, a lot of times ends with Tom Brady. When you look at Patrick Mahomes, like pre-30, which, he'll be turning 30 in September, he has 2,500 more playoff yards than any other quarterback did by the age of 30. He has 21 more playoff touchdowns than any other quarterback in NFL history did by age 30. But anytime that's mentioned, because like right now I'm seeing a lot of comparisons, like the pre-30 Brady with the pre-30 Mahomes. But what that assumes is that he's going to play till he's 45. Like exactly. Brady won championships at 37, 39, 41, and 43. And I said this when Tom Brady did it. And, I felt like the Rodgers conversation should prove this. But when he signed with the Jets, there was always just this assumption that Tom Brady played till he's 45. So therefore, everyone else is going to be effective and can play. Tom Brady is an anomaly. Like he is not the norm for a reason. And this assumption that everybody else can just be what he was. It's why I predicted ahead of the season, and I got a lot of the predictions wrong. I'm not just touting the right prediction here, but it's why I thought the Jets would suck this year, because I did not understand why a 41-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury was just suddenly going to flip it on. Like Tom Brady is not the normal guy. And so if you're going to say that, compare Mahomes to Brady pre-30, you've got to acknowledge the reality that we're probably not going to see Patrick Mahomes playing at that Tom Brady level into his 40s.
And I'd also add to that like mentality-wise, Tom Brady has gotten divorced because he couldn't let football go. Like Patrick Mahomes is not striking me as a kind
He's still married. He's still married, so he's not 1-7.
That's right. Yeah, but he's like he's in that being a family guy and having kids and owning sports teams and doing other stuff. And he's more like LeBron in that way. And that it's not
he's playing when he's 40. Let's keep in mind.
Yeah, but that's a different sport, right? I mean,
your words, man. Your words.
Can see a point. Like Tom Brady got to that level he got to because he was maniacal about it. And he was out to prove a point. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is out to prove the same point.
I do.
Yeah. Well, I was willing to pay the price to prove that point. Then.
We'll find out. I don't think you can know until you got to pay it, right? What does he do when his teenage kids are going to proms and, does he want to be there?
Yeah.
And, those moments. I don't think we'll know till he gets there, right? I don't think he'll know till he gets there. Those are amazing life experiences that, I think most of us here in this room have been through. So I know Sam's got a lot of them still to go through, but you and I have got older kids. It's you go through it. We'll see what happens, right? Because there's no doubt it takes time away from your job. You got to figure out a way to do your job better in more time, right? As your kids and family start taking up more time. And I don't know that football allows you to do that. You can't work out faster, right? It takes the time it takes to do all the things. And so I do think it's a very fair point. And I don't think we'll know till we get there. But I think the motivation, the drive, the maniacal, the Michael Jordan-ish things, I think that's there.
No, I don't think I think he's more like LeBron and Brady's more like Jordan. I think, I'm telling you. And that's not a knock. That's a well-rounded person. I'm not saying he's not competitive.
I don't know why you're ripping
Tom Brady was like.
I don't know why you won't just call him a maniac. I mean, why?
What?
Why do you feel a need to not give him that mantle?
Because Tom Brady got divorced. Tom Brady chose football over his family.
So if he gets a divorce, you'll be happy.
Yeah. If you ask Patrick Mahomes, would he take football over his family? I guarantee he's picking his family.
If he got divorced, do you think he can catch Brady?
No.
It's irrelevant.
That's what separates LeBron and Michael Jordan. That level of craziness.
I think that drive is there, but I do agree with you. I don't think he'll know the decisions till he gets to the point and has to make the decisions family-wise. If you've been hurt in an accident, I know you should call Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Besame Wellness for all your cannabis needs. With fast, easy, and discreet delivery, you can enjoy the same deals you enjoy in-store but delivered to your home or office, even same day. Restrictions may apply. Any questions? Let Besame's top-rated customer service team assist you. And this Chiefs season, don't miss a minute of the game with no delivery fees on game days. And when the home team wins, so do you. Use promo code 3PEAT and receive some extra free goodies with your next Besame order. Don't forget, you can still use promo code podcast25 to save 25% on your entire order for online delivery or at any of their 5 area Besame locations.
All right, let's talk about Jalen Hurts, Jeff. What does this do for Jalen Hurts getting this win, not only in the Super Bowl, but head-to-head with Patrick Mahomes? He's now 1-1 in Super Bowls. What's it do for where he stands?
Well, certainly. I mean, I think he's playing Eli Manning to Tom Brady here, right? I mean, he's the guy that people didn't respect as much as the Josh Allens and Lamar Jacksons of the world, but he's the one who has the ability to win against Mahomes when it matters most. And so I think it elevates him. I mean, you start talking about him as certainly, I wouldn't say elite. That's still an extreme jump to make, but he's probably top 6 now in the league in terms of where he's at, how he's looked upon after those guys I just mentioned and Joe Burrow. I'm happy for the guy. There's always talk about dual threat quarterbacks can't win championships, and this is a guy who's gone through a lot. He's had 3 offensive coordinators in the last 3 years and still found ways to get his team to the Super Bowl twice and won a championship once with that group. I think his greatest skill, people underestimate his leadership, his understanding of the game, his willingness to do whatever it takes to win. He's a better version of Alex Smith in that way. And if you look at the cut-ups of some of the things he did with his legs, checks at the line of scrimmage, the throws he made, I thought there was no way he was going to outplay Patrick Mahomes twice in 2 Super Bowls, and he did it. So I give the guy a ton of credit for that.
Yeah. Sam, where do you sit on him? Long-term and short-term, where does he fit into today's game?
Well, I'll just say I think the Jalen Hurts story is one of the best stories in football in the past decade or so. I mean, the guy was benched in the middle of a national championship game. I mean, it was a humiliating experience for him, a late second rounder. And, ever since he's been drafted, the city of Philadelphia, and I recognize the city of Philadelphia is different, but that city's been constantly looking for an upgrade over Jalen Hurts. And so, after every Super Bowl, every team, all they talk about is that nobody believed in him, the doubters. To me, Jalen Hurts' legacy he's right if he says that, because he had plenty of doubt about his ability to do what he just accomplished. And I know the Eagles had the number one defense in the league. It's certainly Jeff made the point last podcast, that's an elite defense. Like, he had that as an assistance in the Super Bowl and all season long. But Jalen Hurts played terrific in that game. And so to me, that's his legacy. The guy's won 43 games in 3 years. And quarterbacks, wins are not a quarterback stat and all that. The guy's won 43 games in 3 years. And so it might sound a little hypocritical to add on to that and say, I still think he's behind Burrow and Allen and Lamar and Patrick Mahomes and probably Jaden Daniels as well. But he's up there. I mean, I've got him probably sixth as well, like Jeff mentioned. And like I said, I think most of all, when I think of the Jalen Hurts thing, I just think what a great story. He's fought and pushed through a lot of doubt over the past 5-6 years.
Joe Flacco didn't rocket to the top of the list when he won a championship, right? So it takes more than that. Now, Joe Flacco didn't go to 2, and Joe Flacco didn't almost win another, which is where Jalen Hurts is. Plus, Joe Flacco, I think he is similar to Flacco in the sense that, and I bring it up because I think Flacco's the bottom basement that you could be in. Already with the second Super Bowl, we're above Joe Flacco. But I'm putting up, Flacco went to the playoffs every year. He won road playoff games. Flacco's career is better than it's given credit for now at the end, because once he got the big money, it all fell apart for the Ravens. But, they were in the playoffs every single year. His rookie year, just like Jalen Hurts, right? And I think that's the part that's pretty amazing, is he has been a playoff quarterback. Like, it's kind of like Andy Reid. His Eagles days are used against him until he has all this success, and now the Eagles days propped up. And look what he did when he didn't have Mahomes, right? Jalen Hurts, like, his days, like, well, he can't win in the playoffs, and he doesn't do this. Well, he couldn't beat Mahomes. But now he beats Mahomes, and it's like, and he almost beat him a second time. And he's been to the playoffs every year that he's been the starter for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I do think it elevates him. I don't think his career is going to go on. And we're not going to talk about Jalen Hurts being one of the best of all time. But there's a little bit of his career that is Tom Brady-esque in the sense that you mentioned it, Jeff. First of all, there's no need to apologize for having a great defense. Nobody got to the Super Bowl with a team that sucked everywhere, right? Yeah. It always is a team game. You're just the most important part of what is still a team game. And his numbers look kind of like Brady's early years. Now, I think the question for what his legacy will be long-term, does he add some 4,842 touchdown years? Do they win on his arm? Does A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith cycle out and get old, and do they win with, Justin Watson and, the crew of receivers we saw Patrick Mahomes win with a couple of years ago? Can he do that? That'll be what pushes him up to where we're talking about one of the greats. But great quarterback, great leader. Yeah, he's there. And does he belong up with Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson? 100%. I think he absolutely joins that club. I think he absolutely is in that discussion. And I don't know how you could keep him out, especially when so much of what Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson do are with their legs. And he's as good a runner as those guys are as well. And I know the tush push is a team thing, but you've seen the guy squat and lift and what he does. Like, he is as much a part of why that tush push works. They did it with Dallas Goedert and they got stopped a number of times. They're better with Jalen Hurts in there the way he does it. I think this really does validate him as one of the best quarterbacks in football. And I don't know how you could not put him up there shoulder to shoulder with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And he should be in conversations for MVPs.
So if you're offered a quarterback between Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, you think it's a coin flip between which one you would take?
No, I don't. I would take Josh Allen 1. I would take I think I might take Hurts 2 and Lamar Jackson 3. But Josh Allen I would take because I think he's the best pure passer. And I think eventually everybody gets old. I do think Jalen Hurts will get old early because I think the legs are a big part. I don't think we're going to answer my own question, I don't think we're going to see a 4,842. I don't think we're going to see him.
Well, we saw that from Lamar Jackson this year. The guy should have won his third MVP this year. I mean, Jalen Hurts is not.
I disagree that he should have won his third MVP. I think the right guy.
Well, he's won 2 and finished second. Like that part's factual. Jalen Hurts has not sniffed in it. And
I think
he was second a couple years ago. He was second a couple years ago when Mahomes won it.
He was, in fact, when Mahomes won his second, he was in the lead with about 4 or 5 games to go and then got hurt and handed it over to him.
Finish second. So he's got MVP votes one time and he finished second.
I think you'll see him get a lot more now. I think these kind of things are what give it to you. I mean, I don't know. What do you think he is?
I don't think the guy ever finishes like top 3 in an MVP again. I do think Lamar does. I mean, Lamar's the betting favorite for MVP right now for next year. But I mean, you're predicting his future, not talking about his past. So look, you can predict that he's going to have a better future. I mean, if I'm opening day next year, I'm taking Lamar Jackson over Jalen Hurts.
I think he's more Russell Wilson, whereas if he doesn't get a big ego and start thinking I'm the whole show, like he'll be fine. But like Russell Wilson killed himself by thinking, oh, I'm bigger than what I am. I don't need this great defense, this run game, and the coaching to win. They got exposed. Like Jalen Hurts, I think, understands the importance of what he has around him and will play within that structure.
I like that comparison.
I think that's a very good comparison. We'll see what he does with it here moving forward. Does this tarnish Andy Reid's legacy, Sam?
I don't think so. Look, I will say the one thing when I went back and watched the game a couple more times between our last podcast and this one is I did feel worse about their game plan after watching that than I did on Tuesday. But I will point out, everyone calling for the screen game, they ran screens in the game. I did see, as many Patrick Mahomes just bypassing open receivers as I saw live from the game on Sunday and the first time I had watched it on Monday. I didn't feel any differently about the way Patrick Mahomes played, but I felt less great about their – I think I thought on Tuesday a little bit of feeling of helpless. Like, what can you do? The Eagles played a great defense. Your quarterback's not playing well. Your offensive line's not playing well. I thought they could have done a little bit more. So I didn't think Andy Reid had a great game. But from a coaching standpoint, I mean, look, he's not going to catch Belichick. He's obviously older. When we had this, Brady Mahomes conversation that factors into it. So I think it does a lot less for his legacy.
Belichick coached to what, 72, which would mean Andy Reid would have 5 more seasons if he were to coach to the same age as Belichick.
And you're not getting 4 in 5 years.
He's not to pass him to time. He would need 3 in 5 years, which he has done over the last 5 years.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either. I don't know how you can bet on it happening, but I think it's out there. Jeff, what did it do for his legacy?
I don't think. I think he's fine too. I think it's look. You've got 3 championships under your belt. Very few coaches have done that in this league, so I think that allows him to feel pretty good about where he's at. Now he clearly got out coached. I mean, he was not. To Sam's point, he was not prepared for what Philadelphia threw at him. But all the stuff he did, 2 franchises have counted him as the best coach they've ever had. I think that matters. He's been to 6 Super Bowls in his history and in his career.
Yes,
so that matters. That matters a lot.
Sorry to interrupt, Jeff, because you said something interesting there. You think that by the time Sirianni's done in Philadelphia, that they'll still consider Andy Reid the best?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I mean,
he's made 2 Super Bowls and won 1 now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I didn't think he's been only there for 4 years.
Yeah.
So he's had quite the run. He might get that, but right now I'm saying I think people in Philadelphia still feel like he's the all-time wins leader. He's been the face of their most successful, decade. But no, I think that the way he lost was tough. I agree with Sam that I was surprised he didn't have more of a game plan. I think there was some arrogance involved in how they approached this, and even I think they fell in love with the idea that they had fixed the offensive line and that Mahomes could make up for any other deficiencies they had on offense. And that's the one thing I'd say Andy might be guilty of as he gets older in his career, is thinking, I can do anything with Patrick. I can make anything work. And so that, moving forward, we'll see how he handles that. But I think, look, some coaches have tough days, and he had one on the worst possible day you can imagine.
Yeah, I think it is a tough one. I think it hurts. There's no doubt about it. Nothing is added to it. It's still great. I think he's still up there and probably firmly at number 2 since he's going to continue to coach. But I would ask this: if he turned around, if they won it next year, and he's won 3 out of 4 and played in 4 straight, how much, like, to me, what he does next year, what the follow-up is, will be huge. If they would go and win another championship, then this is kind of like his Philly days. Can't win the big one, can't win the big one. Got his ass kicked, which will turn into they went to 4 straight and won 3 of them. Like, it will quickly become part of the success story if they go and win it. Now, it's really hard. They are the second favorite to do that behind the Eagles. I think that's probably just a little bit of what people are hoping for, but I think that could change it a little bit. So, I think that's, I think that's, I think we'll see. I always think whatever comes next does help define what came before it. And so we'll see what he does with this next year.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you this. Let's real quick. Let me do this. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back. We'll get into Travis Kelce and what is next for Travis Kelce right after we tell you about our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world: home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations: North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Have we seen the end of Travis Kelce in the Chiefs uniform, Jeff?
I said earlier this week it's probably 60-40. I'm starting to feel like it's 70-30. Just because I had not heard him talk on his podcast about it. And he brought this up on his own. And so just the way he was talking about it, it felt like this has been on his mind. He did say something I thought would be part of this conversation for him, that it's hard to see yourself not being able to do the things you've been able to do earlier in your career and not do it on the biggest stage. He's had a phenomenal career. We can have the debate about best tight end ever at some point. But I feel like this opportunity to three-peat was huge for him and was a huge motivation for him still playing at this stage. Like, it's hard for me to think he can look at next season and say, what's out there for me that's going to push me through all the things I got to push through to get my body ready. I have to accept I'm not going to be as big a part of the offense. I'm not going to have the numbers I used to have. I've got all this stuff going on in the off season now. I've got this great relationship with Taylor Swift. Like, there's just more stuff in his life. I mean, I know he loves football. He loves being with his team. But like I said, with Mahomes and his family, he's got more stuff going on now. And when you have more stuff and you get deeper into the off season and you start looking at that stuff and you're not getting hit, it can change the game. So I think he's probably going to retire.
Sam, where do you sit?
Yeah, I feel it's much more likely that he's going to retire. I'd put it at least like 80-20. And there's a lot of speculation for reasons why, and they're all obvious. Jeff mentioned a lot of them. His relationship, the fact that he's going to probably launch a second career after this career's over. And he talked about on his podcast about, coming into the building every day and going through that grind. And look, I actually don't think it's about any of those things. I think it's about another thing Jeff mentioned, which is, can you accept not being as good as you once were? That is going to drive Travis Kelce's decision. And he already knows the answer to that, by the way, because he wasn't as good this year as he has been He's career lows in yards per catch, if you don't include his first year where he literally doesn't, play an offensive snap. And so he already knows the answer of whether or not he can accept that. And he has to, in his mind, know that it's not going to get any better next year when you're 36. It's probably, in fact, going to take yet another step back. And I just think that answer is no. I think somebody who's that highly competitive and has been at the top of not only his game, but the league for that long probably can't accept being mediocre. And look, that's understandable. Like, I would have no qualms with Travis Kelce if that becomes his motivation for choosing to step away. But I do think that will become his motivation for stepping away.
Tommy says he looked more tired than upset at the end of the Super Bowl. Tired equals retirement. Upset equals comeback. Interesting angle on that. Able to define it. And then Tyler said, I don't think he's sticking around just to increase his playoff stats. I think the one narrative that I don't like is like, he doesn't want to go out that way. Well, the only way he can change it is by playing 19 NFL games, going through a training camp, going through preseason, doing all those things before he even gets the chance. And he may not get that chance. I think very quickly, I think it's easy for the fans to say that, but I think he'll quickly realize all the work that goes into it. Right. And I think he'll be like, and I think he says I'm out. Yeah. All right, let's finish with this. Staff changes. Jeff, do they need to change the coaching staff? Do they need an injection of some fresh ideas?
I don't know. I mean, I think the main characters are going to be back, right? Spagnuolo and Nagy, Andy Heck. Is that where you're going, offensive line? You think they need to do something in that direction?
I'm not going anywhere. I'm asking the question because it has been the same group for a long time. I think the easy answer is no. Don't fix what ain't broke. I mean, they won 15 games when they tried. I think that's the easy, but I think that's the easy answer and most likely correct answer. But they did get panned. I mean, Sam just talked about it on the game plan. Like, could they use, maybe it's a passing game.
No.
I mentioned this, and Sam talked about Joe Blameyer and how good he is. I don't have a name in mind. I just think that it is always good to be injecting new, fresh ideas. And if you've got people that are still injecting new, fresh ideas, then I think you can get there. But they got beat pretty bad on the game plan side of things.
Yeah. They went and got Joe Cullen a few years ago, and the defensive line got turned over, and he's made a big difference. I mean, they've been losing guys, and the way they operate over there, they're trying to give more guys opportunities to step up. So usually the guys who are coming in are younger guys who are looking to make a name. But I do think that consistency has been a big part of their success.
Yeah.
They have. I mean, the Eagles have lost how many coaches in the last 3 years?
And it's done what for them?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of my point, because I do think continuity is definitely what you want in the NFL. And I don't think you want, and I think it's one of the reasons why the Sirianni will not be there for 20 years, right? He'll burn himself down because he just creates, all these situations. But they brought in new ideas, and it worked. I mean, I don't think you can just dispatch and say, like, what do you want to be, like the Eagles? What do you mean, champions? Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they're open to that. The same. Sam could probably speak to that, but like I look at the Sean McVays of the world, the Sirianni, they seem to be more open to that than this group probably is.
Sam, do they need it though? I agree. I don't think they're going to, but do they need it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I don't think they're going to. Look, I certainly don't think it's a bad idea to get fresh blood in the building, fresh ideas in the building. But I do think that they're consistently probably more on defense than offense has led to a lot of their success. There's a lot of complications with the way Steve Spagnuolo calls things, and learning the system and knowing the system is a big deal. I think it's one of the reasons you saw this group, become a lot more successful last year than this group was in year one defensively, is because you understand the complications of the offense a lot better. And there's something to that for receivers as well, but we've not seen the receivers have a lot of success. I think there's two positions when we look at, this team over the last 3 years that's been under fire more than any. It's been the wide receivers and it's been the offensive line. And I always say this, but when you talk about the failures, you also have to mention the successes. Rashee Rice really came on at the end of last year. Xavier Worthy really figured something out in the December-ish range of this year. Looks like they have two draft picks who can play. And if the offensive line, I totally agree that they haven't figured out left tackle. It doesn't look like the guys they even brought in have improved a ton. But you do have to mention that Trey Smith is going to become the highest paid guard in the league. That Creed Humphrey's the highest paid center in the league already. There's some success stories there as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm not looking to replace anybody that they have. I agree with Soren's point that it's never a bad idea just to always have somebody in the room who says, what about this?
Yeah, I guess that's a great point. Listen, you can help support the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Hit that like button, the love button. Make sure you tell your friends about the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Also, our great sponsors like David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Give his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Gann Asphalt and Concrete for more than 30 years. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. Our friends at Besame Wellness. If you use promo code Podcast25, you can save 25% on your entire order at Besame Wellness and Northland Injury Law. If you've been hurt in an accident, choose Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries for more than 40 years right here in Kansas City. Call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-HURT. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network and NFL.com, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB saying